Well, hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. Hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but I own a company, Cross Carpet Cleaning. And we do carpet cleaning, we do upholstery cleaning, tile cleaning. And we also, in the past years, I've been doing this over 30 years now. And we got into water restoration many, many years ago. And then also many years ago, we got into mold remediation, because mold remediation starts with the water damage, okay? And if the water damage is not dealt with properly, it yields to mold. And a lot of places we would go into, we would go to dry out something, we'd pull off a baseboard, and it'd be like, you had an issue before, and it wasn't dealt with properly, and now you have mold. And so we are licensed by the state of Florida to do mold remediation, okay? Why do I say all that? Is because in this chapter here, we talked about leprosy and skin diseases yesterday. Today we're basically talking about mold remediation. And you're going, mold remediation in the Bible? I don't think so. Yeah, there's mold remediation in the Bible. Mold remediation was being done in the Bible long before we did anything. And realistically, most every job that I do involves sending samples to labs to do testing and analyze things under the microscope. God set these guidelines up long before there was microscopes and before people understood about dangers of mold and the microscopic properties to it and everything. The priest didn't walk around with microscopes and examining the microbes and everything. But God, in all his wisdom, knew this way, way beyond and gave these guidelines. And it would be, centuries before people actually understood the dangers of mold. Like today, we understand it a whole lot better. And it's all science-driven today. But you can go back and look at the Bible, and the Bible spelled it out. And these guidelines are pretty much the same guidelines. If you were to do a mold remediation job and you just followed these guidelines, you'd be pretty close to what the state requires, amazingly. So I wanted to read here today. This is taken from Leviticus chapter 13, and it's verses 47 to 49, okay? Not 47 to 40, 59, I'm sorry. It's 47 to 59. So it says this: Now suppose mildew contaminates some woolen or linen clothing, woolen or linen fabric, the hide of an animal, or anything made of leather, okay? And you'll find that in most of the mold remediation projects that we do, mold is attracted to leather. You go into a closet, and if there's a mold issue there, the first thing that's going to get moldy is someone's leather shoes, okay? So he's dealing with that right here. Verse 49, if the contaminated area on the clothing or the animal hide or the fabric or the leather article has turned greenish or reddish, it is contaminated with mildew and must be shown to the priest. After examining the affected spot, the priest will put the article in the quarantine for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest must inspect it again. If the contaminated area has spread, the clothing or the fabric or the leather is clearly contaminated by a serious mildew and is ceremonially unclean. The priest must burn the item, the clothing, the woolen or the linen fabric, or piece of leather, for it has been contaminated by a serious mildew. It must be completely destroyed by fire. Okay? But the priest examines it and finds the contaminated area has not spread in the clothing, the fabric, or the leather. The priest will order the object to be washed and then quarantine for 7 more days. Then the priest must examine the object again. If he finds the contaminated area has not changed color after being washed, even if it did not spread, the object is defiled. It must be completely burned up, whether the contaminated spot is on the inside or outside. But if the priest examines it and finds the contaminated area has faded after being washed, he must cut the spot from the clothing, the fabric, or the leather. If the spot later reappears on the clothing, the fabric or the leather article, the mildew is clearly spreading and the contaminated object must be burned up. But if the spot disappears from the clothing, the fabric, or the leather article after it has been washed, it must be washed again, and then it will be ceremonially clean. These are the instructions for dealing with mildew that contaminates woolen or linen clothing on the fabric or anything of leather. This is how the priest will determine whether these items are ceremonially clean or unclean. Okay? So, like I said, for mold remediation, if you have an issue and you follow these procedures, then you can pretty much take care of it. You know, we've made some changes over time. They didn't have HEPA vacuums back then. Okay, so you couldn't just HEPA vacuum stuff as part of the cleaning process. If you would either clean it with water, if it didn't clean up, you'd have to burn it. Okay, if there were some articles that it was embedded in there, and if it came back, you had a problem. You needed to burn it. Okay, and in the same way, today there's products we can use to get rid of that mildew. They didn't have those products back then, but there comes a point too that you need to get rid of the stuff. So, say drywall, for example. I don't clean off the drywall, I remove the drywall because that drywall is contaminated and it's deep into that. Just like you would have the clothing that the mildew was inside there, and you have to get rid of it. So again, God in all his wisdom knew way about mold remediation way before anyone else did, and gave these guidelines to protect the people. Okay, the Bible is spelled out with all these rules and guidelines, and it wasn't so God could be mean. It was to protect his people. So, bottom line, God gave this for your benefit. He gave the Word of God for your benefit. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our journey through Leviticus. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.